So in the discussion of the ecosystem and transitioning from a system to an ecosystem, I was pretty clear in the book that don't blow up Sunday morning. This is not a game. There are real people involved. They're not going to understand. People are going to get lost and fall through the cracks and be, falling apart at the exact wrong time in their life when they needed you. You're not going to be there for them because they're not going to understand. So additive, not subtractive. All right. So I think I was pretty clear about that. Is that you will discover at some point you just don't need Sunday morning if you were just together Saturday all day at a picnic and you're going to get together for lunch with a bunch of people in different restaurants, no assignments, an ever-moving, no-click world of serious disciples that are willing to sit at a pizza place and talk about Jesus. What's different, what's wrong about that? In him we live and move and have our being. There's no except for. It's either in our DNA, a very biological structure, or it's a game we're playing on a schedule, which is ridiculous. That Jesus didn't do that. Anything Jesus did extra was just for the fun of it in the context of as a bridge to. It was never a separate thing with it, ever. And so it was with the 12 and the 3,000, daily in public and from house to house. All of them were that's not a committed nucleus of 10%. All of them were together and had everything in common. Though they counted their possessions not as their own, it was still their own, as Peter said to Ananias and Sapphira. That's your money, do what you want. So that's part of it is, don't nuke what you're doing. But another thing to consider is that this is a dynamic situation. Because it's neither here nor their kingdom, it's not something you can start. You can't have a ribbon cutting. I said that in the book too. What that means by definition is you don't know what you got. They're going out, prove they were never among us, John said. Well, doesn't that mean they were with them for a while? Of course it does. And he's trying to address the surprise of they're not with us anymore. You got to accept the fact that this is a dynamic of living, and some onions take 10 years to peel off the layers. But cliques will nuke it. You have a clique of mediocre people that are comfortable with each other, that hang out with each other, and they don't really do much to help each other spiritually because they like the personality, or they have similar age children, or they love the same sports, or they like to crack up and make snarky remarks, and that's their entertainment. All that stuff is garbage, and nobody will grow in that. So is it an ecosystem or a system in that scenario? See, there is such a thing, and there will always be such a thing as a hybrid, because it's a work in progress. The nature of ecosystem is not that, okay, flip the switch, we got it now, cut the ribbon, now we're an ecosystem because we don't have a building? Are you crazy? This is a process of becoming like Jesus, and it takes a while to even know yourself, let alone to know anybody else. Good grief, I've learned more about myself in the past 2 weeks than maybe I did 6 months before that. But that's okay, because it's loving the light that creates the ecosystem, and that's the separation. This is the verdict. Some love the light, some don't. The wheat and the tares. Some love the light, some hate the light. Do I want to change? Is it anything goes in terms of my relationship with God? If that's what I want, then I'm not loving, then I'm not lukewarm. It's not about behavior, it's not about performance, it's not about knowledge, that's for stinking sure. It's about where do I want to go and what price am I willing to go to get there. The farmer with the treasure buried in the field, the merchant in the pearl of great worth. What will I pay? Well, everything. Duh. It's not an installment plan. It's everything. I'm going there. I'm going there. I don't have to be perfect. I'm going to grow. Whatever it takes, however humiliated I'm going to be in the process. And that is what presents me complete in Christ. That's where the blood washes, because anyone that claims to be without sin is a liar. The truth isn't in him. So is the ecosystem about a bunch of perfect, committed people? No. It's about a bunch of people that love the light and really want to serve God. And any price, there's no price that's too high. I've counted the cost. And the cost of not following is way too great. So So if somebody was looking at some wedding video from 35 years ago, it said I was looking at this and there was some people in that video that just kind of grossed me out. I said, okay, I got that. Those are people we said goodbye to. Some that are lost along the way, as that song said. And we were fooled by some that had said all the right words. Oh, it's like the wallet of the bride of Jesus I've been carrying around in my wallet, and I finally found her. Like, oh, well, yeah, pat me on the back and you can be one of us. Like, how stupid are we, right? We're not looking for Christ like this. We're looking for agreement or enthusiasm or some stupid other thing. Ezekiel said, examine the entrances and the exits. Be very careful about the entrances and exits. So we learned a lot. But what I said was, those aren't just repulsive, I think was the word he used. Yeah, there's some of that in there. But it's also heartbreaking because the nature of the ecosystem isn't we got this now and we didn't used to. The nature of the ecosystem is we're making people alive in Christ, bringing them to the Y in the road, bringing them to the place where they can decide who they want to be. And that is a process that can't happen in 1.19% of a week for 2 hours on a Sunday. It can't happen. I can't figure out who I'm going to be. I don't even know I need to think about who I am in 1.19% of my week, 2 hours on a Sunday. So these are not failure mode videos from 35 years ago. That is the ecosystem. It's a stinking big mess. It's the ox barn that you got to go and get a shovel and you got to deal with it. The ecosystem, every biological entity has waste matter, we'll call it, just to be nice to the video. Every biological entity has waste matter. That is the ecosystem. You're trying to avoid the pain. You're missing the point. The kingdom is entered through much tribulation. So yeah, but we really weren't this system, the ecosystem. We were still a system because that person killed. No, you're missing the point. We'd be blind to their failure without the ecosystem. Exposing their failure, they're going out, prove they were never among us. John did that. Judas did that. The 12, they didn't object so much. The 11 with Judas, and they were suspicious, but they didn't know what to do. So that is the process. At some point, a person who's making bad decisions along the way, Satan will enter into them. That's what happened with Judas, right? He was making bad decisions, stealing from the treasury, lying, manipulating, having secret meetings with the fellowship of darkness, the religious guys. He had his own motives. Jesus, I'm trying to force Jesus into taking over the Roman Empire. Whatever he thought, whatever delusional thought he had about what this group of disciples and Messiah were supposed to be, he had already healed the sick. He was part of the 12. He's seen the miracles, so he wasn't disbelieving Jesus. He was manipulating to get what he wanted or what he thought out of it. And the secret meetings and the theft and the seared conscience, and then Satan entered in. And we have seen this with our own eyes. Somebody that's cutting corners. They're sneaking off. They're doing this. They're doing that. They set up their whole world with the whole series of compromises. And then Satan enters in, and they're just absolutely, totally digested into the enemy, like the Matrix movie. Aunt B's making cookies, and boom, her eyes turn green. That's how it works. The kingdom, our battle's not with flesh and blood and convincing people, it's with principalities and powers. There is a Satan just as much as there is a God. And when you know that, you also know the supernatural things are at work, are at stake here, and even the elect will be deceived if that were possible. So, this is really a big deal. But I'm just trying to say it's not half system, half ecosystem because there's failure. It's not half system, half ecosystem because you see a video from 35 years ago or 35 minutes ago. That's not half. The nature of the ecosystem is we got a chance. We're afraid. We've cut the chains. We now have the ability as we rise up and sit down and walk along the way, a man not have to say to his neighbor, know the Lord, know the Lord, know the Lord. They'll all know me from the least to the greatest. Do we all know him? I don't know. Where's the evidence? That's the ecosystem. We're looking for the evidence that we all know him from the least to the greatest. There's something alive, something z-axis, zoe. There's something that you can't explain that's from God. If you don't see that, you ask. And they either grow or they get angry. Okay, now you know this is the verdict. They love the light. Or they play along as long as they can, and then they can't play along anymore. But that's okay. That's not failure of the ecosystem. That is the ecosystem. There is refuse. There is, every tree prunes itself, right? I mean, there's the pruning that God does, but every tree prunes itself. I mean, look at any tree out there and find me a branch that doesn't have some yellow or brown leaves on it that turn into fertilizer later, mulch, right? So that's the ecosystem. It's not failure mode versus success mode. That's the wrong tree. It's laying down our life, doing our very best 24/7, that God will get the glory and his bride will be made ready. That's all we're after. We're not after reputation. We're not after, avoiding failure mode of an individual or a day or a week. Who stinking cares? We're just free to explore the meaning of walking with God every day of our lives. That's what we're after, not failure, success, ecosystem, system, living room, building, like title, no title. We don't have any titles, so now we're an ecosystem. No, you're not. We had a failure, so you're not an ecosystem. Not true. Failure is part of the ecosystem because we're free to make a mess. That's totally okay. You're not free on Sunday to make a mess. It's a managed, choreographed environment, and that's why the revelation comes the second. The first one doesn't sit down because it's in my notes what I want to say, because I'm the preacher and everything's perfect. And if anybody interrupts me, I'm lost. I don't know what to do, because if he says something wrong, I'm going to have the ushers drag him out by his feet. I can't let chaos. Everything should be done decent and in order. So I'm not going to let revelation come to the second. Me sit down after I spend all that time preparing the sermon and doing all these Greek word studies. Are you kidding? I know more than he does. But you might have the 10th or 30th greatest gift in the entire auditorium, and you will never know it because you won't shut up. You don't trust God enough to let God be God, the Holy Spirit. Don't consider what to say or how to say it, except for the 10 hours I spent preparing my sermons. So, it's better to be crazy. It's better to be unhinged in the sense that we have not prepared our life and sterilized it. It's better to make a mess in the ox barn than to have a bunch of wax oxen in the barn. Clean up the mess and keep on going. You'll learn from that too. So that was the conversation.
I was just saying last night, even as we're working hard to try to share this good news of the kingdom, like all this effort just to kind of help people understand the environment that Jesus' life is meant to flourish in. And even what we get to experience and what we know, it's still the challenge every day of actually living it out. There's the sharing of the good news, but then there's the living it out. And it's kind of like what you're saying. I mean, it's just a messy thing. And knowing about it and actually walking it out on a day-to-day basis. When that choice comes, do I give into my flesh here? Do I not? Do I eat that extra cookie? Do I not? The vertical interaction with Jesus becomes the actual living out of that. It is sad and unfortunate that so much of the religious world right now doesn't have the environment where all of those things can be worked out. But looking forward to the day where we can stop trying to communicate what church should really look like and get down to the business of actually just living out the church in the process of becoming more like Jesus. But in the meantime, we do have both jobs, but realizing even for myself that regardless of what I know regardless of these things we're trying to pass on to others, that daily work of actually living it out and those onions getting, peeled off is definitely top of mind.
Well, here's the kind of cool thing. Ecosystem is not what you know, and it's not what you do. Those kind of things we can work towards, and we can know more, but that doesn't make us real. We can try harder, but that doesn't make us real. But the thing that's out of our control, that's in our control, is humility, right? So that's what the ecosystem, that's the building block of those. That's why there's no clergy. Like, who do you think you are? Call me reverend? Are you out of your mind? Jesus said, you have one reverend. You have one father. You have one leader. You have one master. You're all brothers. Shut up. Right? Matthew 23. Look it up. Okay, well, what is that? That's a statement of humility. I know I have nothing that God hasn't done. I know that I'm nothing without him. I don't have the next breath. My brain could go totally brain dead with just a neurological bonfire in a heartbeat. I don't have control over that. But God is God, and my humility says I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow. I don't have to be anybody. I don't have to know anything. I don't have to do anything. Humility is the glue that holds everything together. It's not what you know or what you do or what you try to do or whatever. You're going to try to do things. You're going to, do whatever you can. But in the end, you're going to make mistakes. And you have to have the humility that it makes us all brothers. If you don't have that, then what you know and what you do is sabotaged entirely, and the Spirit flees. He has no business here. Where we think we have something or know something or can do something, the Spirit has no business here. So humility is the issue, not knowing or doing. So I'm a little lost. I don't know quite what to do. I failed. Big deal. Because the thing you can do is have the humility to face it and, be God's man by loving the light, not by accomplishing and doing and knowing.
Can I say something? I've just been thinking recently that part of the ecosystem, just as I've been getting help from various ones of you guys, that it's only because kind of the ecosystem that I can kind of get the 20 years of thinking I was a Christian, thinking I'm filled with the Spirit, but kind of getting those blinders pulled off of seeing the lack of surrender, seeing the lack of reality. But by Jesus' grace, I'm not going to stay there, but it's only because of this environment, the ability to have the daily relationships, to have you guys in my house and be in yours, that you can see the fruits and start poking at that. Jesus through you guys poking at that, and I'd say that gives me hope. And I know that in a Sunday morning system that I would have continued on for however many more decades like that without.
Yeah, got all the promotions to go with it. You'd have been an awesome deacon. No one would have even cared if you were a Christian. If you can play piano or guitar, you lead the worship band. Nobody cares if you're a Christian. So yeah, the ecosystem is what frees us to experience God rather than to experience religion.
Andrew was saying last night, kind of your point of like, I don't know. I feel like our miniature golf putt-putt thing, we were kind of hitting back and forth. It's like somebody's been playing putt-putt the whole life and thinking that it's golf. And, there's a golf ball and there's a putter, so it must be golf. And then it's like, we're inviting you to play the real game. But then, yeah, we'll shank it too. But we're in the middle, it's not going to go out and watch us play, golf, and it's going to be, PGA Tour level stuff or course record, but it's the real game. Yeah. And it's not this made up thing you've been dreaming that you've been playing golf the whole time. And yeah, we've all hit shanks, and we will, but I don't know. Felt like there was something in that analogy that we were talking about.
That's a great analogy. The windmill's really entertaining and the dinosaur's cool, but the real game, you actually have to be there and be serious and learn and grow and change and observe. And the windmill's fun, but it's not the real game. That's a great analogy.
When we got our new hoop on the other side, we were like, what? Like, it was different than the actual basketball. It was very different how you played, and it's like, okay, so now we actually go out of bounds on this side to get instead of
Yeah, we never had to worry about out of bounds.
That's a great analogy. It's like a whole different game, isn't it? Yeah. Still has a ball, you still bounce it, still has a hoop, but having a full court instead of half court, it just messes with your brain because now you got to play the real game. Fast breaks and things like that that are part of the game are, you got to start thinking about that. So, yeah, that's great.
Somehow you get a lot fewer hole-in-ones in real golf.
Whoa. Yeah.
A little less back guiding you do.
That's good.
Remember when Tiger Woods hit a shot and he spin the club down his hand after just kind of strutting almost. That's what I picture somebody playing putt-putt that way. Just spinning the club down.
On the wall here it says, chart your own course.
Oh. Yeah.
I had this in the frame the whole time from my angle.
be heard.
Hilarious.